Hey everybody, this is Cody 922 here, and today I'm coming at you with episode number 10 of Cody Talks Cody Spock's Fanfiction. Cody Talks Fanfiction. And today it's episode 10. So like I said last week, episode 10, it falls on the 5th. It's going to be an author spotlight. And I really do like this particular author. But before I get going, I will say this. There are some potential changes to the format, to the overall format that I've previously established, could be coming very, very soon. So keep your eye out for that. It'll probably be announced next week's episode. Also, if you will notice, this fire wasn't here before, and the chandelier wasn't finished before. So the reason that all of this is finished is I did previously record this author's spotlight, but I didn't feel like I did the author justice. I did not feel as though I talked about stories enough, and I did also not feel as though I pointed out the things that I wanted to, and I missed so much that I decided I'd be better off just re-recording this. So here I am. So ignore any of the progress that you see that I have made, because all of it happened at another time in another land. So let's just go ahead and get this thing started. This author's spotlight is going to be on, well, man, fuck you both. This author's spotlight is going to be on knives4cash. Knives4cash, author of roughly 17 billion stories, aka he actually, according to this thing, it says that he's written 62. I have no idea how many RWBY stories he's written, but I've read, or at least started reading, for the most part, all of them. So, yeah, definitely, I'm a fan of what Knives does, but just so everybody knows, pay close attention to the screen here so you don't miss anything. But here is the specifics for the stories of Knives that I have read, that I've read to completion. If anybody's paying close enough attention, you will notice that there are some missing, but alright. Make war, make love, the days we wait for, dare to dream, a good day to dine, of cats and rats, the undiscovered pun tree, date night, a blooming rose, confound it. One way in, snow way out, the days we hate, happy campers, ice cream, game night, dare to dream, here and now, culturally offensive, without a fiddle, so hot, additions, subtractions, and confusions, not alright, fight, 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 can't you see, let go, swap till you drop, the day we wedded for. Rapunzel, it's a punderful life, you are my punshine, I forgot, the meaning of strife, the morning after thrill, incorrectly calculated caper, take flight, of cleaning and kissing, Team WRBY, Team WRBY, a deleted scene from chapter 2, the dying rose, pollen found, love her to death. As it stands right now, there's currently there's a couple Knives stories that I haven't started, but there's currently one Knives story that just came out that I have not yet started to read, and it is called Yang's Guide to the Galaxy, which is apparently her giving sex advice to Ruby, so this will be interesting. So yeah, Knives, really consistent person. Obviously he churns out a lot of work. All of his short stories range from 1K to like 3 or so K words, his one shots. He has one actual story, and by actual story I do mean that it is continued on beyond just being a one shot, and he does really great work. I don't know what I'm doing. Whatever, I'll go do it anyways. So what are overall opinions on Knives is definitely that, first of all, it's very rare that you will see Knives stray outside of fluffy, lewd one-shots. And by very rare, I mean you've seen it twice, I think. So he's very comfortable. You know exactly what you're getting more often than not with Knives. I think that he does a great job, and consistency is so hard, especially when you're trying to judge on a story-to-story basis, because, I mean, it's not as though one bad chapter and you're like, man, this was a bad chapter, I guess I'll just wait for the next one. He has one chance at this, and if he screws it up, that's game over. So, it's game over for that particular story. Yeah, but I think overall though that Knives does a really, really great job. I think there are some stories that are missing from there. I can't name specifics right off the top of my head, but there are some stories that are missing from the list that I compiled of stories that I've read by Knives, and those stories, I didn't particularly enjoy them. But that being said, that and one of them had Enabler, and that is the one ship that I will never touch is Enabler because it's creepy. But overall, though, Knives does a really great job of just being consistently good and show what it's on a hit or miss basis, whatever. And all of his stories also, I almost forgot to mention this, they kind of teeter on this line of being, it's like on the perfect line of being too much and being just enough. It's always on that line. It's never not on that line. So the fact that he has such as high of a success rate, in my opinion, as he does, is really pretty incredible, because I definitely would not have thought that the success rate would have been as high. I don't know if I could do that, being as close to the edge as Knives is. So, without further ado, let us get started on some of my points about Mr. Knives. The first thing that I want to say is that his interpretation of the characters his version of the characters are different. So he has very lewd versions of the characters, all of them. And it's completely different. So it works out quite well, and I think that in terms of making people lewd, he does a really good job at kind of keeping their core traits, but still making it kind of a I'm not gonna say smutty because it isn't smut. I guess I'll stick with lewd. Kind of a lewdy interpretation of these characters, and he always does he does a very good job with those things. And I think that the fact that their core traits stay so close to what they are in the show, despite how different of a characterization they have, it's really impressive to me. And I think that does it better than most other people would and probably could. I think that another point to make is that his stories are always very comedy filled. Obviously, they're fluff, and making a comedy based story can be difficult. And but that being said, it's always good. It's consistently good from Knives, as is most other things. The other thing that I want to say with Knives is just how easy to read his stories are, which is a great thing, because if your story is easy to read, the odds that more people will read it are better. So they're all super, super easy, and you can pick up a story of his at any point. They exist within the same timeline. There are some things that would need to be explained, but of Pollination, Bumblebee, and White Rose, you don't actually need to read everything in order in order to get the idea of the story. It can be read out of order, which is actually what I did unknowingly for quite some time. And the odds are pretty good if you read around at all, or a fair amount. The odds are pretty good that you have most likely read one part of Pollination and Pollination, White Rose, and Bumblebee. So onwards to some other things about Knives. Definitely some areas that I don't appreciate quite as much with Knives. All right, well, you're gonna go in here. Definitely some areas that not quite as praising of for Knives, for me. Area number one. Anybody here remember the Trendsetter episode and all the things that I said I did or did not like? Knives is on a fair amount of the do not like sides to things. I think Yang as a character can be a bit much. More often than not, I think that it's harder to really, really enjoy his interpretation of Yang sometimes. I think that she does have a tendency of becoming much. One thing that I would normally bring up would be would be the fact of how lewd RWBY is, but this is a completely different interpretation of that character. I really can't judge them on the same basis, but hey, just gonna throw that out there. Puns, I brought up in the Trendsetter episode, the fact that I feel as though puns are very, very often overused for Yang and whatnot, just because Barbara is the voice actor. Knives has has a couple of stories based purely around making puns, and it's much. I think that it is too much sometimes. And even though some of them are, they can be fun, but they can, once every once in a while. But he likes to get in a lot of them. Oh wait, I'm really sorry, Knives. I almost forgot to mention this, and I feel kind of bad. Roman history. This is a good point for him. Roman history seems to be a really, really huge point for Knives and what he does. So. Definitely knows his stuff, and I really do like all the references that he snuck in. There are actually 2 stories based around it being set in Roman times, as far as I can gather. I don't know if it's like a role play thing or whatever, but being set around Roman times. So I definitely enjoyed them, though. I thought that they were fun, and Knives, he did a really great job with that, in my opinion. Then there is. I would also have to say, but going back to some more unpleasantries with some things, I think that, like I said, his stuff can be right on the border of too much and just enough to the point where it would become really enjoyable. I think that oftentimes you finish, early on especially, I think early on it was more miss than hit. But as as time has kind of gone on, he's gotten better about it. But I think that he has tried to do too much in some of these stories. Another point I do want to bring up with Knives is crossovers. Knives has a couple of them. I have actually tried to read all the ones that I would understand. So that means everything but Sailor Moon, just in case anybody was curious. I've never seen Sailor Moon. Anyways, and I think that I personally believe, and this is not like a selfish desire, but I personally believe that Knives should stay away from crossovers, because I've tried to read all of them, and all of them kind of fall under the category of close but no cigar. Like I said, I've tried to read all of them. I love the movie Frozen, and I tried to read his 7-Day Spectacular, which is actually, sorry, that's a correction on my part. That is another story of Knives that involves, that is not just one chapter. Excuse me. And, so I do think that he needs to stay away from there. Achievement Hunter references, that's another thing that I said that I felt as though they could be overdone quite a bit. Knives is the king of overdoing those. And I think that needs to make them more subtle, or stop just using them to the degrees that he is. Because right now it's pretty bad. There is a cow named Edgar in there. At one point in time, I actually didn't mind that reference, but that's the one I can think of off the top of my head. So I think that, kind of cooling down a little bit on the Achievement Hunter references. The weird thing with Knives is the fact that I should start by saying this. I did binge read all of his stories. So I've at one point in time. So some of them are muddled with others, because they're all very, very similar, or most of them are very, very similar. But the thing with Knives is that he is now starting to kind of go back in, as opposed to just starting from where he was at in the relationships. He's just now starting to kind of talk about how the relationships began. And I really, really, And I really, really enjoy those. But that being said, it kind of makes for a little bit of difficulties in terms of explaining some of these things, because Knives is just because some of them are a little bit muddled in my mind. I'll just say that some of them are a little bit muddled in my mind. But definitely the later ones, the ones not addressing the beginning of the relationships, there are not too many Achievement Hunter references in those. Those are really, really light on that particular style of referencing. And I appreciate that. I really do. I like the fact that we're going back to the beginning. I like the fact that I'm now kind of getting an opportunity to understand what it is that, how it is that these relationships began, what it is the characters are that Knives is building off of. Because, like I said, these are not the same characters as are in the show. These are all his interpretations of kind of a smuttier version of them. And that is the case. And so you cannot look at them in the same light because that would not be a fair comparison for Knives. And to kind of see the beginning and to see them be more like the characters that he addresses, or to see them be more like the characters from the show as opposed to the characters, the way that he's interpreting it is nice. I enjoy it, and I think that it's a much more fair comparison to kind of go off of. Is like, okay, so this is kind of their evolution, and this is how they began. I do appreciate that. But I think at the same time, it's kind of hard with these characters to understand how they changed in the ways that they did, because there are some pretty huge differences between some of the characters in his stories, from where the relationships start to where the relationships end. Most noticeably, I think I would probably go with like a Ruby or even a Blake. I think, though, that with Knives, which is really great, is that he definitely has improved as time has gone on. I think it's a noticeable difference. Well, it's subtle enough to the point where if you're just reading along with the one-shots and you're reading them in order of when they came out, like I was, you don't really get a full appreciation for it until after you're done reading it. And I did get that full appreciation, though, and I'm very glad that I did, because it was enjoyable to watch. Wait, I guess that kind of works. So, overall grade. I am tempted because Knives does, like I said, he is pretty much purely, and if I did not say it, I'm sorry, Knives. He's pretty much purely a fluff writer. And the temptation with that is to just say 3 out of 5, fun to read. Because that's how I put it for a fun to read thing. That was the logic behind saying RWBY's Icy Rose was a 3 out of 5. That was the logic behind, or 3 out of 5. Saying 7 out of 10, that to me was like, that to me is average. I think that's what kind of like qualifies as like average C is a national average for the for United States. So that was my logic in doing those things. With Knives, he has 2 stories that are out, and those 2 stories are Team WRBY and Let Go. And these stories are fantastic. They are stories based around the idea of these are 2 stories. The first one, Let Go, is based around the idea of RWBY just kind of I think eventually just kind of losing her sanity from her job and just leading Team RWBY on an endless march to really nowhere. And just trying to, get them to kill every single Grim, even though they had broken the Grim a long time ago and they were going to win the war. And it's so fantastic the way that Knives goes about doing it. And I definitely think that it was a phenomenal story. And I remember reading it and just thinking, I wish there was more like this. And lo and behold, I reached Team WRBY in the lineup, which is a full-on story. And it was more of that. And it was more plot, and it was Weiss was the leader of Team RWBY, which, by the way, anybody have any idea how to pronounce Team WRBY? That's the best I got. But Knives, and it was a phenomenal job done by Knives. And I definitely think that that was really a demonstration of what Knives can do. And it's frustrating to me that he keeps writing fluff. I can understand why you would want to avoid like this plot thing. I can understand that, maybe he does feel more comfortable in fluff. But at the same time, I am selfish and I would absolutely love more of this particular style because it was so good when I read it, and I want more of that. And I'd rather see more plot than more fluff. That's personal request from me, Knives. Please, please, please do more plot. It was great. Finish up Team WRBY. I think there's one more chapter left that you have to do according to what you're saying, and it will make me very happy to see that update. But so that changes actually my rating. Those two stories alone are the reasons I'm going to change my rating on Knives, and I'm going to put it at 3.5 as opposed to 3. I don't think I can quite go up to 4. I don't think I can go up to 4.5. I probably will never go to 5 unless every author is completely flawless. Unless I find an author that is completely flawless through and through. But I would really, really love for not. I would really, really do love what Knives is doing. I think that he should keep it up, and I definitely think that more plot is going to help you rather than hurt you. In my opinion, even though the RWBY fandom does seem skewed towards fluff, and in all honesty, it is. The fanfiction community is skewed towards fluff for the most part. But I think that you should do more plot. I really do. I think that it works out better overall. And that's just my personal opinion, and that's going to do it for the video. I want to thank everybody for watching. Everybody go and binge read knives4cash's work. There will not be every single one of his stories in the link. So I will put in a couple. I'll put in Team WRBY, Let Go, and the link. And I'll put in, I'll just leave it at those two. Otherwise, it'll just be a link to his author's thing. Because if I were to do all the ones that were mentioned, it would take a while, so my apologies. But, just go in and binge read all of Knives' work. I think it's definitely worthwhile. Stay tuned next week to see an announcement about the future of Cody Talks Fanfiction in the formatting. Otherwise, I will see you next time. Bye.